Hello, I'd like to make a couple of special videos this week to address some issues that have come up during the course of the semester, as well as respond to some of your questions. So this video is just a special lecture where I want to have some additional discussion on situations that arise whenever you have an online class. So as you know, and as we have discussed already during the semester, online classes are different from live classes. And in some ways, they're more work for you, and in some ways, they're less work for you. They're less work because you don't have to show up for class, get up out of bed, um, and just deal with going to a class 2 or 3 times a week. So that would be less work, actually, but they're more work because there's a little bit more responsibility that is just on you. Now, that should be the case in every class, but if you're meeting face to face, then I'm able to remind people that things are due, remind people that, certain items need to be turned in, that you need to be aware there's a quiz that week. When you're taking an online class, the only real reminder that you have is the Blackboard calendar and the schedule that's set up for the assignments. And so you don't get to see me face to face, so you don't get that reinforcement that I think some people really need and like. I mean, I need it and like it as well, but it's just different in the online environment. You need to remember, and this is true in any class, not just a non-class, that you and you alone are responsible for getting the correct book, doing the correct assignment, accessing the correct quizzes, doing them on time, submitting your homework on time. I have an awful lot of people who are telling me they couldn't get the book, they ordered the wrong book, they got the wrong edition, they don't understand. I've never had this problem before, and this is a little mystifying to me because you're all adults here, and the book is clearly shown on the syllabus. I don't see why that's an issue. You were given a link to go and purchase the online book, the correct online book. So I don't have a lot of sympathy if you bought the wrong book and did the wrong homework, or if it took you a long time to get your book, because basically the book is available online, and so that's an immediate purchase. The online third edition is exactly the same as the print third edition as far as the homework problems go, and so I don't see why that's an issue. I should say that I do appreciate those of you who let me know that the support files for Chapter 3 were not available in the folder, in the download folder, and I did, I believe, make those available to you. I think I sent those out through email, through the Blackboard site. So those kinds of things, it's really important for you to let me know about. If if you just didn't buy the book, or you just didn't pay attention and did the wrong assignment, or something like that, then that's a problem that you need to address, and that is not my problem. Um, as far as doing work on time, I have never had so many people contact me to tell me that they were just unable to do the quizzes on time, or they opened the quiz early, or they just totally forgot. I I don't want to sound rude, but that is just not my problem. That is something that you need to take care of. The grades in here, this is not a terribly difficult class, and the grades in here really are being much more impacted by people just not doing their work on time than they are people not doing their work correctly. Um, I can't make accommodations or changes for each individual in the class. Occasionally, as is the case of the EEG homework assignment, I will change a deadline for the whole class because I feel I need to. So I'm not unreasonable about changing deadlines, but I can't make individual accommodations for individual people. That's not fair to the whole class. And if I do that for one person, then I have to let every other person have that opportunity. And then we get to a point where we're like high school, and you just get to do it over, do it over, do it over until you make the grades you want. That's not what's going on here. This is in high school. You're all grown ups. There aren't any do overs. There aren't any extensions because you forgot to do the quiz. The other thing is the quiz answers become available immediately after the due date. Um, So you can't really do the quizzes late, and I'm not going to make a special quiz for you. I have 30 students in the class. I have 50 students in my other class. So if every time somebody wanted me to make a special quiz, that would be all I would be doing, is making special quizzes and assignments. So the bottom line is I cannot and will not let you redo a quiz or redo a homework assignment or let you do it late or make you a different one or make you a special one or somehow excuse you because you're forgetful or you were busy. If you're too busy or too forgetful, the online class environment is probably not the best environment for you. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about grades. Um, Over the last few years, I've had a really disturbing trend in that students seem to think that they need to be perfect and that their grades as well should be perfect. So I want to tell you, first of all, that you're not perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. You are going to miss questions. You're not always going to submit a perfect homework assignment. You're not always going to make a perfect score on a quiz. In everything in life, you're going to learn more from mistakes you make than anything else you do. There's not a lot performance wise that you have to do in this class that's extremely difficult. Some of the projects are challenging and some of the MATLAB code is challenging, but you're working in groups and I'm available to help you with that should you have any questions. The quizzes are primarily taken literally straight from the lectures. I make a lecture and then I make the quiz questions immediately after I make the lecture. So, they're pretty straightforward and relatively easy, I think. But as I said, you're not perfect. They're not set up to trick you, they're not set up to cause a problem. Now, having said that, I'm not perfect either, and I know that. And sometimes I will accidentally program questions and or answers incorrectly into Blackboard. I know sometimes I don't perfectly state things clearly. Um, I know sometimes there's an answer that is a correct answer that maybe I didn't anticipate, and so the system's going to count that answer wrong. So you need to know a couple of things. First of all, you need to know that after that first, I don't release answers until the quiz due date. So I applaud and encourage those of you who are doing the quizzes early to continue that practice, but I cannot discuss answers with you until everyone has completed the quiz because obviously that would make correct answers available. However, what I do and what you should know is that after each quiz is done, I do go back and review. And if I see a question that, a number of people have missed, or if you send me an email and give me a heads up, hey, I think I got the right answer on question 4, then I do make a mental note and I go back and I review that manually. So, yes, there's automated grading, but those of you on the quiz, I think it was a question about the instantaneous autocorrelation. Should have been the correct answer, and many of you put magnitude squared for the power spectrum question. And so, while magnitude squared is really not what I was looking for, and it's a little bit vague because I would ask magnitude of what, um, that was okay. And I went back, and those of you who put that answer, I counted that correct. So, there is a review that's done. Now, having said that, some of you will not take no for an answer. And so, what I need to say here is that you need to stop expecting and demanding perfect quiz scores. Sometimes you're going to miss a question. And if that question's wrong, it's going to be counted wrong. And if it's a gray area, it may be counted wrong, it may be counted right. And that's a decision that I have to make, and then I have to apply that decision fairly and uniformly across the entire class. Some of you have sent me repeated emails that become more and more verbally aggressive, and that's not acceptable. When I make a decision about how to assign a grade, that decision is not negotiable. So, first of all, you need to stop demanding perfect quiz scores because you're not perfect. And secondly, once I make a decision about how to actually grade a quiz question, I need the argument and abusive behavior to stop about questions and grades. Um, I will tell you that if I receive repeated emails and if those emails become increasingly verbally argumentative and aggressive, um, I will let you know. that I will notify both the graduate dean as well as the graduate advisor in the department because I can't tolerate that in today's environment. Um, it's just not something that we can have. So we will be polite and civil. Now, if you have a legitimate question about a problem that you don't understand, about a concept that you don't understand, then I will spend as much time as is needed to discuss the concept, but I will not argue repeatedly over a question. My decision is final and it's not negotiable. Now, what is your recourse? Your recourse is the grade appeal process. So if you just really think you're right and you really think I'm wrong, then you certainly have the right through the university to file a grade appeal and to provide documentation that supports your case. Now let me just talk just a little bit about the quiz questions. Um, I have the quiz questions set up where each question is worth 10 points. And so we'll probably have 80 to 100 questions over the course. Well, maybe not that many. Um, Maybe we'll have 50 questions over the course of the semester, which would mean that each question for each quiz would count 2% of the total quiz average. And so you can look up, I think quizzes are 20%. So if quizzes are 20% and each question counts 2%. Then on the final grade, each question would count 0.4%. You have to decide whether it's worth your reputation and your time to argue over 0.4% of a grade point. Because I will tell you, I've never given someone with an 89.6 a B. So you need to think about, you know, your behavior and how you're representing yourself when you're arguing over one question, particularly when you're wrong. So I need to address that because it's become increasingly stressful for me to respond to these argumentative student emails. And if this continues to be a trend, I will take your name, I will take a copy of the email record, I will submit it to the graduate advisor um, and request that, you know, that, that the situation be addressed. So that brings up overall communication. In an online course, communication can be very difficult. Um, I try when I find I'm getting a lot of questions, I try to make a short video that addresses the questions. Usually, the questions I'm getting asked, and that's the case on this current project, have already been addressed in a video, but that's okay because this happens in a classroom. Sometimes you need to say it a different way or address it a couple times, and I don't mind that at all. If you have technical questions over how to do something, over what I'm asking, um, especially before the fact, especially on projects, the biggest learning experience in this class are these homework assignments slash projects, and so I definitely want to make myself available to answer any questions on that at all. Sometimes what I will do is rather than respond to you directly, I will post a video that addresses yours and other people's questions, or I'll send out an email to the whole class because a lot of times I think those questions are very relevant and everyone needs to see the answer. Um, so that's very important. Once I make a decision, so let's talk about communicating on grades. Once I make a decision about how to grade something or how to answer a question, I'm happy to respond one time to how something was graded. So if you want to know, why you made a 90 instead of a 100, I am happy to send you one response to explain why you made a 90 instead of a 100. That is it. And I will not repeatedly argue, and I will not open any additional emails. And as I said, the grade appeal process is open to you if you feel I've graded unfairly. I actually believe that I'm grading very easily in this class, and so I just don't have a willingness to go back and forth a lot on 2 or 3 points. If you do have a question, it is very important that you be respectful of me as well as your other classmates. And it's also important in email to choose your words carefully. First of all, email is a lot more permanent. When you send me an email, this becomes a part of your permanent record. And I will tell you, when people ask me for things like job recommendations or recommendations for PhD programs, the first thing I do is I go back and I review my communication and correspondence history with you and my email record. And if I find that, there's been inappropriate or rude emails, that definitely influences what I will say in that recommendation. Both to, know, not specifically, I would never specifically reveal the content of an email, but usually we're asked to rank on a scale from 0 to 10, how a person is in certain situations. And so when I see, a long record of argumentativeness or disrespectful behavior, that enters into my, you know, thoughts about whether or not to give a strong recommendation. So it's also easier to misinterpret. I am very well aware that most of you in here, English is not your first language. And so I'm very understanding about how difficult it is sometimes to choose your words and to word things. So I think I have a lot of tolerance built in for that. But I still find that sometimes the way questions are addressed, it's almost in an accusatory way, like I'm trying to give you a bad grade in the class. That is not the case. Currently, the only people who are making bad grades in the class are people who have done no assignments. So that leads me to the last thing. I'm sorry if you're upset about a grade. I'm sorry if you're upset that you forgot to do a homework assignment. I'm sorry if you're upset that you missed quiz questions. Basically, what I do, because grading is very emotionally charged with students, I set up the grading in advance of the semester so that during the course of the semester, I don't put myself in a position of having to make decisions about how to grade things. That's all done in advance. Unless there's a mistake or an error in how things are coded, or I stated something poorly and didn't realize it until someone pointed it out to me, or somebody comes up with an answer that I decide is a correct answer, even though it's not the answer I wanted. Those are the situations under which I will change grades. Otherwise, I set that up to be very objective. I know that you would all like a really good grade in the class. I know that. But I'm getting a lot of emails begging me to let you do extra work, let you redo work, because you really, really want a good grade. Just because you want a good grade does not mean you are making a good grade. And sometimes there's just a mismatch between what you want and what you get. My son goes to a tennis tournament. He really, really wants to win every match, but he doesn't win every match because sometimes he makes mistakes. So I know you all want a good grade, and I want to give you all a good grade, but I have to be objective, because as soon as I start letting my subjectiveness enter the picture, then suddenly all bets are off and anybody can ask me for anything, and it just becomes, not a learning experience. So, in summary, what I would ask you to do is, let's take the arguing over grades and the worrying about points out of the situation, and let's focus on the learning of the material. Biomedical signal processing is a fascinating area, and I realize online lectures are hard to listen to. I try to take most of my lectures straight from the book. So, I don't like listening to online lectures myself. I'd rather read the textbook. So I always will try to provide you with written materials. I want you to be asking me questions and communicating with me about the science and the subject matter, which, as I said, to me is a fascinating subject matter. If you're not interested in it and you're just taking it for the hours, I'm sorry about that. I'll try to make it as interesting to you as possible, but I understand we don't always offer enough graduate courses, and sometimes people will just take a class because they need to fill their schedule. And I'm sure there are some of you in here like that, and that's just the way it goes, and I understand that. But anyway, I felt the need to release this video so that I could address some of the issues that have come up in the course. mostly to encourage you to contact me to, let you know kind of what's going on. So, as a result of some things that have occurred during the semester, I've made a couple of policy changes. This doesn't impact or affect the syllabus. It mostly they're mostly changes to my personal behavior and approach to the course, and keeping my stress level as low as possible, as well as making it clear that there are some limits to um, availability. So, first of all, I just wanted to make you aware that I'm not going to check or respond to emails over the weekend or after 5 any longer. I will try to make exceptions for that on days that assignments are due, but I find that people are sending me emails all weekend, and some of them are not very nice emails, and so it gets me upset on the weekend. I need to stop entering into those conversations on the weekends and when I'm off. So if you send me an email on Friday evening, it is unlikely that you will hear back from me until Monday mid morning sometime. If you're in Lubbock, I'm certainly available to answer questions face to face. You do need to email me and make an appointment. I have a lot of allergies and a lot of issues, and so I work from home a lot, and I'm not always available in the office, but I am always available to come up to the office most days. Um, I'm not available, however, to meet you in the office to argue about grades or for you to be abusive or confrontational about grades. So, if the discussion is to argue about a question rather than ask about the concept, then you may certainly send me a question in writing. I will respond in writing, as I said one time. And beyond that, if you're still upset, then you have the university grade appeal process to fall back on. But we're going to take that whole teaching is a very um, it's a very rewarding occupation for me. I really enjoy trying to take difficult concepts and deliver information that you can find useful in your careers. I enjoy working with students overall, as far as helping you figure out what you enjoy doing, helping you learn about how to ask the right questions, which really is what graduate work is about. What new research question does this topic area lead to? I enjoy sharing with you some of the things that we've done in my lab. That's a very rewarding and enjoyable thing for me. Having a class be about arguing about grades and points takes all the joy right out of it for everyone. It takes it out for you, it takes it out for me, and I'm just not going to do it anymore this semester. So from now on, I will certainly respond to your questions about quiz questions one time. Sometimes I will do that after the quiz due date to the whole class, but I will not argue about grades, and I'll just refer you to the grade appeal process. I think that'll just make it a much more pleasant experience for both of us. At this point, I don't think there are a lot of you that are in grade trouble in here. Those of you who are, I have tried to let you know. I should say that I send an email once if there's an issue. Many of you are not responding to my emails. That is certainly your choice. But in an online class, it is critical, if you want to establish communication, that you check your email from the faculty member about the class. Because the other thing, and this is not a new policy, this is an existing policy. I might send you an email once asking, hey, you're missing a couple homework assignments. What's going on? Um, Not acceptable 3 months later for you to tell me, oh, you know, I was working, or I got called into the office, or I got busy, or I had a research problem in the lab and I just couldn't do my work for 2 months. And can you please do something for me now? No, can't do that. So communication is important. Um, and and polite and civil communication is extremely important. And it goes without saying that this is not just to be directed to me. This is certainly to be directed to your group members. on your group homework assignments. So hopefully we can finish the remainder of the semester without any additional controversy, and you can anticipate um, the rest of the course materials to be posted relatively soon.